All right, this seminar in the 1920s is about the Harlem Renaissance. It's called that because it took place in Harlem, New York. If you zoom out, this is the area of Harlem right now, or in New York, and obviously part of New York City, the five boroughs. There's all kinds of interesting things in there. Just south of Harlem is Central Park, to give you an idea of where it is. Langston Hughes, a bunch of famous people lived and worked there, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, what was the Harlem Renaissance? Well, it's from mid-19 to about 1935, and it's basically the mecca of African American civilization, not civilization, arts, culture, everything in Harlem, New York. You got writers, artists, musicians, photographers, poets, scholars. Really, it's the who's who of African Americans in America at that time. Here's some of the notable people: Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois. There's just a ton. So these are some of the big names. More than artistic movement, it was really about racial pride. That was probably the overarching factor. African Americans taking pride in their artists, their entertainers, everybody. It's just a sense of pride in being an African American. Also pushing for political rights, which they did not really have in that era. Jazz and blues started down south, but was really picked up in Harlem. A lot of people would go into Harlem to see this stuff. The Cotton Club, very famous club in Harlem, had some of the biggest African American headliners in the world at that time. So we got Langston Hughes. He was one of the bigger people. Just tons of stuff, a lot of poems. Here's one of his famous ones, The Dream Keeper. W.E.B. Du Bois, also a writer. A lot of quotes for him. If you would search the internet, you're going to find a lot of quotes from him. Cost of liberty is less than the price of repression. That's a pretty powerful quote. Count Basie. Here's a good one, guys. Let me click on this. Count Basie, one of the biggest musicians of the time. That's him on the piano. One of the biggest, most successful bands of the era. Real popular. That's Count Basie. And then probably the most important single person for musicians that come out of the jazz era, Louis Armstrong. Nickname was Satchmo. Let me just click on this and show you.
I see trees of green. I see them blue for me and you.
Now this was filmed in 1967, and I'm talking about him in the 20s and 30s. So obviously a really long career, really famous voice, that deep kind of gravelly voice. You're just taking a listen.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
I always have kids that ask, is that a scar on his lips? No, that's from playing the trumpet so much. So, but Louis Armstrong, I still think his music holds up really well today. Just a great person, a great musician. So you got Billie Holiday. Here's a famous song from her.
Southern trees, that strange road.
No.
Blood on the leaves.
This is called Strange Fruit. Talking about blood on the leaves and everything. The strange fruit she's talking about is actually African Americans being lynched in the United States in the 1920s and onwards. The 1920s also had a resurgence, very high number of people joining the KKK. So this obviously ties in with that. Real powerful song. I don't know what else I can say about that. Then we got Duke Ellington. He had a real famous traveling band, the A Train. Let me skip ahead here on this one.
Get to show the hill way up in Harlem. If you should take
You should take
a train, you get to where you're going in a hurry. Hurry, hurry.
So Duke Ellington, a lot like Count Basie, I in my opinion. Big band, not just one person singing. A group of people, and it was quite the performance, you know. He was on TV. There's all kinds of, like, we got other videos from 1953 or 43. Sorry. I mean, you can just, these guys and gals have just the careers. I mean, it spans a long time. We're talking decades and decades. So the conclusion here, I want to make sure I didn't skip a slide there. Okay. The combination of the Harlem Renaissance and the Jazz era gave America some of its best songs, poems, music in general, novels, all because of the Harlem Renaissance. If you go to that part of New York City today, there's a lot of monuments and plaques and things that show the greatness of the Harlem Renaissance. So, but obviously a big part of America, some of the greatest songs and music we've ever gotten. You know, jazz comes out of this period of history. So there is your seminar on the Harlem Renaissance.